Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I want to speak to you about something that will challenge everything you've been taught about what's possible and what's not. I want to share with you the secret of manifesting the seemingly impossible. Before we begin, let me ask you something. What is it that you desire but have dismissed as impossible? What dream have you buried because someone told you it was unrealistic? What healing have you given up on because the doctors said it couldn't be done? What financial breakthrough have you stopped believing in because the circumstances seem too dire? What relationship have you written off because it appears hopeless? I want you to hold that desire in your mind as we speak tonight, because I'm going to show you that there is no such thing as impossible. There are only assumptions you haven't dared to make. You see, my friends, the word impossible is nothing more than a limitation of the human imagination. It's a boundary that exists only in the minds of those who do not understand the true nature of consciousness. When you truly comprehend what consciousness is and how it operates, you realize that the only impossibility is impossibility itself. Let me tell you a story that happened just last month. A woman came to see me in tears. She said, "Neville, my son has been missing for 3 years. The police have given up. Everyone says he's dead. They tell me I need to accept reality and move on. But I can't. I won't. Is there anything I can do?" Now, by all conventional standards, this seemed impossible. 3 years missing, no leads, no hope according to everyone around her. But I looked at this desperate mother and I said, "My dear, the only reality you need to accept is that your son is alive, well, and coming home to you." "But how can you say that?" she asked. "You don't know what happened to him." I said, "I know something far more important. I know that consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. I know that what you assume to be true becomes true. And I know that if you can imagine your son walking through your door, healthy and happy, and if you can feel the reality of that reunion with every fiber of your being, then that imaginal act must and will manifest in your world." She looked at me as if I had lost my mind, but I continued. "Every night before you sleep, I want you to hear his key in the lock. I want you to feel him embrace you. I want you to smell his familiar scent. I want you to have the conversation you'll have when he returns. Live in that reality so completely that his absence becomes the dream and his presence becomes the truth." 6 weeks later, she called me, sobbing with joy. Her son had contacted the police. He'd been suffering from amnesia after an accident, living in another state under a different identity. His memory had suddenly returned, and he was coming home. Was this impossible? According to human reasoning, yes. According to the infinite power of consciousness, it was inevitable the moment she assumed it to be true. This is what I want you to understand tonight. There is nothing impossible to consciousness, because consciousness is the very substance from which all things are made. When the Bible says with God all things are possible, it's not speaking of some distant deity. It's speaking of the God consciousness that you are. But why do most people fail to manifest what they consider impossible? Because they approach it with the wrong consciousness. They try to manifest the impossible while remaining in the consciousness of impossibility. They affirm their desire while feeling their limitation. They visualize their dream while believing in their current circumstances. You cannot manifest the impossible from the state of consciousness that sees things as impossible. You must first become the person for whom this so-called impossibility is natural, normal, and inevitable. Let me share another story. A gentleman came to my lectures who had been told by doctors that he would never walk again. A devastating spinal injury had left him paralyzed from the waist down. He'd been in a wheelchair for 2 years, and every medical expert confirmed that his condition was permanent and irreversible. But after hearing these teachings, something stirred within him. He decided that he would no longer accept the verdict of the medical establishment. Every night he would imagine himself walking, not hoping to walk, not wishing to walk, but actually experiencing the sensation of walking. He told me later, "Neville, I didn't just see myself walking. I felt the ground beneath my feet. I felt my muscles moving. I felt the joy of motion through my entire body. I made it so real in my imagination that sometimes I would wake up surprised to find myself in the wheelchair." Month after month, he persisted in this imaginal act. His family thought he was in denial. His doctors were concerned about his mental state. But he knew something they didn't know. He knew that imagination creates reality. After 8 months of persistent imagining, something began to happen. He started to feel tingling in his legs, sensations that doctors said were impossible, then slight movement, then strength returning. Within 18 months he was walking again. The doctors called it a miracle. The medical journals called it unexplained. But he knew exactly what had happened. He had dared to assume what seemed impossible until it became inevitable. Now, I want you to understand something crucial about manifesting the impossible. It's not about overcoming obstacles. It's about transcending the consciousness that sees obstacles in the first place. The impossible doesn't become possible. Rather, you rise to a level of consciousness where impossibility doesn't exist. You see, what you call impossible is only impossible from your current state of consciousness. From a higher state, it's not only possible, it's already done. The person you become when you truly embody your desire doesn't struggle to make it happen, because in their consciousness it has already happened. This is why Jesus could say, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Not believe that you will receive it, but believe that you have received it. Present tense, already done. This is the consciousness that makes the impossible inevitable. But how do you develop this consciousness? How do you move from seeing something as impossible to experiencing it as already accomplished? The secret lies in what I call the leap of faith, but not faith as most people understand it. Faith is not blind belief. Faith is not hoping for the best while expecting the worst. Faith is not wishful thinking or positive affirmations. True faith is the ability to feel the reality of your desire so completely that it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances. Let me tell you about a young man who came to my lectures with what seemed like an impossible dream. He was working as a janitor in a small office building, barely making ends meet, with no education beyond high school. But he had a burning desire to become a successful film director. Everyone around him said it was impossible. You don't have connections, they said. You don't have money for film school. You don't have experience. You're too old to start. Be realistic. But this young man understood something profound. He understood that impossibility is just a story we tell ourselves about limitation. So he decided to tell himself a different story. Every day as he cleaned those offices, he would imagine himself on movie sets, directing actors, making creative decisions, seeing his name in the credits. He would feel the satisfaction of completing a film, the excitement of premiere night, the joy of seeing audiences respond to his work. More importantly, he began to think from his desire instead of about his desire. Instead of thinking, I want to be a director, he began thinking, I am a director. Instead of cleaning those offices as a janitor who dreamed of making movies, he cleaned them as a director who was currently between projects. This shift in consciousness changed everything. He began to notice opportunities that had always been there but were invisible to his previous state of consciousness. He met people who could help him. Resources appeared that he hadn't seen before. Within 3 years, he had written, produced, and directed his first independent film, which won awards at several festivals. Was this impossible? From the consciousness of limitation, absolutely. From the consciousness of fulfilled desire, it was inevitable. The key to manifesting the impossible is to understand that there are no impossible things. It's only impossible states of consciousness. Change your state, and what seemed impossible becomes not only possible but unavoidable. But here's where most people stumble. They try to manifest the impossible while holding on to the very beliefs and assumptions that make it seem impossible in the first place. They want to heal while believing in the reality of their illness. They want wealth while feeling poor. They want love while feeling unworthy. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot simultaneously hold the consciousness of your limitation and the consciousness of your liberation. You must choose, and choosing means letting go of everything that contradicts your assumption of fulfillment. This is what I call dying to be reborn. The old consciousness, the one that sees your desire as impossible, must die for the new consciousness to be born. You must be willing to abandon your comfortable relationship with limitation in order to embrace the uncomfortable unfamiliarity of infinite possibility. I remember a woman who wanted to reconcile with her estranged daughter after 15 years of complete silence. Their relationship had ended in bitter conflict, harsh words had been spoken, and all attempts at reconciliation had failed. The daughter had moved across the country and refused all contact. By every reasonable standard, this reconciliation was impossible. Too much time had passed. Too much hurt had accumulated. The daughter had made it clear she never wanted to see her mother again. But this woman decided to live in the assumption that she and her daughter were reconciled, that they had a beautiful relationship, that they spoke regularly and lovingly. Every day she would imagine conversations with her daughter. She would feel the warmth of their renewed connection. She would experience the joy of their reconciliation so completely that sometimes she would reach for the phone to call her, forgetting that they weren't actually speaking. For months, nothing changed in the external world, but everything was changing in the world of consciousness. This mother was becoming someone for whom reconciliation with her daughter was natural and normal. Then one day, completely out of the blue, her daughter called. Through tears, she said, "Mom, I don't know why, but I've been thinking about you constantly. I miss you. Can we talk?" Was this impossible? According to the laws of human psychology and the evidence of years of estrangement, yes. According to the laws of consciousness, it was inevitable the moment the assumption was made and maintained. You see, what we call miracles are simply the natural result of consciousness operating according to its own laws. These laws are as reliable and predictable as the law of gravity. They just operate in a dimension that most people don't understand. When you truly grasp this, you realize that nothing is impossible because impossibility itself is impossible. Consciousness has no limitations except the ones it accepts. And since you are consciousness, you have no limitations except the ones you accept. But accepting a new assumption, especially one that contradicts all evidence, requires tremendous courage. It requires what I call the courage of the creator. You must be willing to stand alone in your assumption while the whole world tells you you're wrong. This is not easy. When you're manifesting the impossible, everyone around you becomes a prophet of limitation. They'll show you statistics that prove it can't be done. They'll tell you stories of others who tried and failed. They'll remind you of all the reasons why you should be realistic. But you must remember that their belief in impossibility is just as creative as your belief in possibility. They are creating a world where your desire is impossible. You are creating a world where it's inevitable. The question is, which world will you choose to inhabit? I knew a man who was $500,000 in debt, with creditors threatening legal action. His business had failed. His house was in foreclosure and his credit was destroyed. Everyone told him to declare bankruptcy and start over. By every financial measure, his situation was hopeless. But this man understood the power of assumption. Instead of assuming he was bankrupt, he assumed he was financially free. Instead of feeling the stress of debt, he cultivated the feeling of abundance. Instead of thinking about his problems, he thought from the solution. Every morning he would sit quietly and feel what it would be like to be completely debt-free with money in the bank. He would imagine the relief, the freedom, the peace of mind. He made this feeling so real that it became more compelling than his actual circumstances. Within 6 months, a series of seemingly miraculous events unfolded. An old business contact offered him a lucrative consulting contract. A distant relative left him a substantial inheritance he didn't know existed. A legal settlement from a case he'd forgotten about came through. Not only was he able to pay off all his debts, but he ended up with more money than he'd ever had before. Was this impossible? According to financial logic and statistical probability, absolutely. According to the infinite creativity of consciousness, it was simply consciousness expressing as form in response to a persistent assumption. This is what I want you to understand. Consciousness doesn't know about impossible. Consciousness only knows about assumptions and their inevitable manifestation. When you assume something is impossible, consciousness manifests that impossibility. When you assume something is inevitable, consciousness manifests that inevitability. The choice is always yours. You can assume limitation and experience limitation, or you can assume fulfillment and experience fulfillment. But you cannot assume one and experience the other. This is why I tell people, dare to assume what you dare not assume. Make assumptions so bold that they frighten you with their audacity. Assume states of consciousness so elevated that they make your current problems seem like the dreams of a fevered imagination. But assumption alone is not enough. You must persist in your assumption until it hardens into fact. This is where most people fail when attempting to manifest the impossible. They make the assumption for a day, a week, maybe even a month, but when they don't see immediate results, they abandon it and return to their old consciousness of limitation. The impossible takes longer to manifest not because it's more difficult for consciousness, but because it requires a more complete death of the old self and birth of the new. You must persist in your assumption until you become so identified with the new consciousness that the old consciousness becomes foreign to you. But let me be very clear about something. Manifesting the impossible is not about forcing outcomes or manipulating circumstances. It's about becoming so aligned with your desire that its manifestation becomes as natural as breathing. When you truly embody the consciousness of your fulfilled desire, you don't struggle to make it happen. You don't worry about how or when it will manifest. You simply know that it must and will, just as you know the sun will rise tomorrow. This knowing is not intellectual. It's felt. It's a deep cellular certainty that permeates every aspect of your being. It's the difference between hoping something will happen and knowing it already has happened in the realm of consciousness and is simply making its way into physical form. So how do you develop this knowing? How do you move from seeing your desire as impossible to experiencing it as inevitable? The answer lies in consistent, persistent, imaginative practice. Every night before sleep, when your conscious mind is quiet and your imagination is most receptive, I want you to enact the scene that would exist if your impossible desire were already fulfilled. Not as a distant hope or future possibility, but as a present reality. If you desire healing, feel the vitality coursing through your body. If you desire wealth, feel the security and freedom that abundance brings. If you desire love, feel yourself beloved and cherished. Make it so real in your imagination that your physical senses are convinced it's actually happening. The secret is to make your imaginal act more vivid and compelling than your physical circumstances. When your imagination becomes more real than your five senses, reality has no choice but to conform to your imagination. But remember, this is not a technique you do once or twice and then wait for results. This is a way of being. You must live from your assumption, not just think about it. You must become the person for whom your desire is natural, normal, and already accomplished. And here's something crucial. When you're manifesting the impossible, you must be prepared for resistance, not just from others, but from your own habitual consciousness. Your old self will fight to maintain its familiar limitations. Your rational mind will present you with evidence of why your assumption is unrealistic. This is natural and expected. Don't fight these doubts. Simply redirect your attention back to your assumption. Every time you catch yourself thinking from your old consciousness of limitation, gently but firmly return to thinking from your new consciousness of fulfillment. Remember, you're not trying to convince your mind that something impossible is possible. You're training your consciousness to inhabit a reality where impossibility doesn't exist. There's a profound difference. The impossible is only impossible for someone who believes in impossibility. For consciousness that has transcended such limitations, all things are not only possible but inevitable when properly assumed and persistently maintained. So tonight I challenge you to examine your deepest desires, the ones you've labeled impossible, unrealistic, too good to be true. I challenge you to dare to assume their fulfillment. I challenge you to become so bold in your assumptions that you shock yourself with your own audacity. But most importantly, I challenge you to persist. Persist in your assumption, regardless of what others say. Persist despite contrary evidence. Persist until your assumption becomes more real to you than your circumstances. Persist until the impossible becomes inevitable. For you are not human beings having spiritual experiences. You are consciousness itself, temporarily forgetting its own infinite creative power. When you remember who you truly are, nothing remains impossible. Everything becomes a matter of assumption and persistence. The question is not whether you can manifest the impossible. You are already doing it. The question is, will you do it consciously or unconsciously? Will you create by design or by default? Will you assume limitation or liberation? You are the operant power in your world. You are consciousness expressing as individual experience. You are the God of your own reality. And for God, nothing is impossible, including the realization of your most impossible dreams. Dare to assume. Dare to persist. Dare to become the version of yourself for whom your impossible desire is already an accomplished fact. The impossible is waiting for you to make it inevitable. Thank you and good evening. And I'll see you in the next video. If this resonates with you and you found value in these teachings, please like this video, subscribe to Best of Lectures, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Your support helps me continue bringing you these powerful lectures that can transform lives. Until next time, remember, you are the operant power in your world.
What if I told you that every prayer you've ever whispered, every desire you've ever held, every dream you've ever dared to dream already exists in its completed form? What if the only thing standing between you and the life you long for is not time, not circumstance, not worthiness, but a single sacred understanding that feeling is the secret? You have been taught to chase, to strive, to work your way toward what you want as if it were a distant shore you must swim to reach. But I tell you now, you are not swimming toward your desires. Your desires are swimming toward you. They are drawn by the magnetic force of your inner state, the vibrational signature you carry in the sanctuary of your being. The world you see is not the cause of your feelings. It is the effect. Every condition, every circumstance, every face that looks back at you is simply the outer garment of an inner state you have worn so consistently that it has become your reality. And here is the mystery they don't want you to grasp. You change the feeling, and you change the world. There is a law older than time, more reliable than gravity, more certain than death. It is the law of assumption, and it operates on one sacred principle: what you assume to be true, what you feel to be real in the secret chambers of your consciousness, must and will manifest in your outer experience. Not because the universe is kind, not because you deserve it, not because you've been good, or worked hard, or suffered enough, but because consciousness is the only reality, and all phenomena are simply consciousness pushed out into visible form. You are not a body housing a soul. You are consciousness wearing the mask of flesh. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the operant power, the first cause, the I am from which all conditions flow. When you truly understand this, when you feel it in your bones, everything changes. The beggar stops begging because he remembers he is the king. The sick stop seeking healing because they realize they are wholeness itself. The lonely stop searching for love because they discover they are love, looking at itself through a million eyes. But here is where most stumble. They think feeling means emotion. They think it means getting excited, pumping themselves up, generating enthusiasm, like some spiritual cheerleader. This is not feeling. This is performance. This is trying. And trying is the confession that you don't already have. The feeling I speak of is deeper than emotion. It is the wordless knowing, the silent certainty, the unshakable assumption that what you desire has already come to pass. It is the feeling of fulfillment before the evidence appears. It is the sense of completion before the first thread of manifestation is woven. When you want money, you must feel wealthy before the bank account changes. When you desire love, you must feel beloved before the lover appears. When you seek health, you must feel vital before the symptoms disappear. This is not delusion. This is creation. You have been feeling your way into your current reality your entire life. Every persistent mood, every repeated inner conversation, every assumption you've held about yourself and your world has been sculpting your experience like water shapes stone. The homeless man feels homeless long before he loses his house. The wealthy feel wealthy long before they see the millions. The loved feel lovable long before they meet their match. Feeling is the womb of creation. Nothing has ever been born into this world that was not first gestated in the feeling nature of consciousness. Here is the reversal that will shatter every limitation you've ever accepted. You do not feel good because good things happen to you. Good things happen to you because you feel good. You do not feel confident because you succeed. You succeed because you feel confident. You do not feel worthy because you receive. You receive because you feel worthy. The outer world is always the echo, never the voice. It is always the shadow, never the substance. It is always the mirror, never the face. And until you understand this, you will remain trapped in the house of mirrors, reacting to reflections, trying to change the image by manipulating the glass. But when you turn away from the mirror and face the light, when you turn inward to the feeling nature of your being, everything begins to shift. Not in time, now. The moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, that assumption begins to harden into fact. This is why the mystics spoke of living in the end, not living toward the end, but living from the end, not acting as if your desire might come true someday, but acting as if it has already happened, not hoping it will manifest, but knowing it has already materialized in the only place that matters, consciousness. Each night, as you prepare for sleep, you are given a holy opportunity. In that drowsy state between waking and sleeping, the conscious mind releases its grip and the subconscious becomes impressionable. This is your moment of power. This is your time to plant the seeds of tomorrow's harvest. Do not waste it on worry. Do not squander it on rehashing the day's defeats. Instead, construct a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. See it, feel it, live in it. If you desire love, feel the warmth of loving arms around you. If you seek abundance, feel the security of knowing all your needs are met. If you want healing, feel the vitality coursing through your veins. But, and this is crucial, do not construct these scenes as future events. Live in them as present realities. Do not say, I will be loved. Say, I am loved. Do not say, I will have money. Say, I am provided for. Do not say, I will be healed. Say, I am whole. The subconscious mind does not reason. It does not argue. It does not know the difference between what you imagine and what you experience. It simply accepts what you impress upon it and works to make that impression your outer experience. Sleep in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Rest in the assumption of its completion. Let your last conscious thought be the whisper of your fulfilled desire, and watch as the outer world begins to reorganize itself around that inner conviction. Your inner conversations are not idle chatter. They are the most creative thing you do. Every word you speak to yourself in the privacy of your mind is a seed planted in the fertile soil of consciousness. And consciousness, being impersonal, being lawful, grows whatever seeds you plant. If your inner speech is filled with lack, limitation, and complaint, that is what will flower in your outer experience. If your inner conversations assume fulfillment, abundance, and joy, those states will manifest as your living reality. Listen to yourself. What do you say when no one else is listening? What conversations do you have with yourself as you walk through your day? Are you rehearsing victory or defeat? Are you practicing gratitude or grievance? Are you assuming the best or expecting the worst? Change the conversation and you change the creation. Begin to speak to yourself as if your desires have already been fulfilled. Thank the invisible for what has not yet appeared. Praise the unmanifest for its inevitable arrival. Congratulate yourself on achievements that exist only in assumption. This is not positive thinking. This is not self-hypnosis. This is the recognition that consciousness is the only reality, and that you are consciousness individualized. You are not trying to convince yourself of something false. You are remembering something true, that you are the creator of your own experience. The world will test your assumption. It must, not because it is cruel, but because it is lawful. Your current circumstances are the crystallized form of your past assumptions. They cannot change instantaneously, because they are the accumulated effect of months and years of particular feelings and beliefs. But do not let the lag time fool you. Do not let the persistence of old conditions convince you that the law is not working. The gap between assumption and manifestation is not evidence of failure. It is the gestation period. It is the time required for invisible causes to become visible effects. When the evidence contradicts your assumption, do not abandon your feeling. When the bank account still shows lack while you're assuming abundance, do not return to the feeling of poverty. When the body still shows symptoms while you're assuming health, do not revert to the feeling of sickness. When you're still alone while assuming love, do not go back to feeling unloved. This is the test. This is the initiation. Can you hold the feeling of fulfillment while the outer world still reflects the old? Can you persist in your assumption while the senses scream that you're deluding yourself? Can you remain faithful to the unseen while surrounded by the evidence of its absence? Those who pass this test inherit the earth. Those who fail it remain bound by appearances, forever at the mercy of conditions they themselves have created. The saints were not special because they were good. They were special because they were persistent. They held their assumptions in the face of all contradictory evidence. They felt their connection to the divine while surrounded by those who denied it. They assumed their prayers were answered before they saw any proof. Saint Francis felt wealthy while owning nothing. He felt abundant while embracing poverty. He felt fulfilled while lacking everything the world calls valuable. And because he held that feeling consistently, persistently, faithfully, he became one of the most beloved figures in human history. You are called to the same persistence, not the persistence of effort, but the persistence of assumption, the persistence of feeling, the persistence of knowing. Hold your assumption like a sacred trust. Guard your feeling like a holy flame. Protect your inner conviction like the most precious treasure in existence. Because it is. Your assumption is the seed of every miracle, the root of every blessing, the source of every good thing that will ever come into your life. Feeling is not mysticism. It is science. Quantum physics has confirmed what the mystics always knew. Consciousness is the ground of being. The observer affects the observed. Mind shapes matter. Attention creates reality. Every atom in your body is responding to your inner state right now. Every cell is listening to the conversations you have with yourself. Every organ is attuning itself to the frequency you emit. You are not just creating your external circumstances. You are creating your very body, your health, your energy, your vitality. When you assume sickness, your body obliges. When you assume vitality, every cell begins to vibrate with life. When you assume poverty, your nervous system creates the stress patterns that push abundance away. When you assume wealth, your entire being aligns with the frequency of prosperity. This is not metaphor. This is mechanism. This is not philosophy. This is physics. You are a consciousness operating through a body, and that body is constantly reshaping itself according to your dominant assumptions and feelings. Feel healthy, and health becomes your natural state. Feel wealthy, and wealth becomes your inevitable experience. Feel loved, and love surrounds you like the air you breathe. This knowledge brings with it a tremendous responsibility. If you are the creator of your own experience, then you can no longer blame others for your condition. You can no longer point to external circumstances as the source of your problems. You can no longer play the victim of forces beyond your control. But with that responsibility comes the most incredible freedom. If you created your current reality through your past assumptions and feelings, then you can create a new reality through new assumptions and feelings. You are not trapped. You are not stuck. You are not at the mercy of fate, genetics, economy, or luck. You are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul, the author of your story. Every chapter you have written, you can rewrite. Every condition you have created, you can recreate. Every limitation you have accepted, you can transcend. The power that created your problems is the same power that can solve them. The consciousness that assumed lack can assume abundance. The mind that felt unworthy can feel deserving. The heart that knew loneliness can know love. Make this your daily practice. Begin each morning by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Before you read the news, before you allow the world to tell you who you are and what you have, spend time in the secret place of your consciousness, feeling as if your deepest desires have already materialized. If you want perfect health, feel the energy and vitality flowing through your body. If you desire loving relationships, feel yourself surrounded by those who cherish you. If you seek financial freedom, feel the security and peace that comes with abundance. Do not do this as a technique to get something. Do it as a recognition of what already is in the realm of consciousness. Do not assume the feeling to manipulate reality. Assume it because you understand that consciousness is reality. And what you assume in consciousness must manifest in experience. Throughout the day, return again and again to this feeling. When doubt arises, feel your way back to fulfillment. When fear knocks at your door, answer with faith. When the outer world presents evidence contrary to your assumption, turn within and reaffirm the truth of your invisible reality. Before sleep, end your day as you began it, in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Let your last waking moments be spent in the state you wish to experience. Sleep in the assumption of answered prayers. Rest in the feeling of accomplished desires. What you are doing is alchemy. You are transmuting the base metal of present circumstances into the gold of desired conditions. You are taking the raw material of consciousness and shaping it into the experiences you wish to have. This is the greatest art, the highest science, the most sacred practice. You are participating in the ongoing creation of reality. You are collaborating with the infinite intelligence that breathes life into all things. You are discovering that you and the creative power of the universe are one. Every assumption you make is a prayer answered. Every feeling you persist in is a law enacted. Every state you embody is a world created. You are not waiting for God to change your circumstances. You are God changing your circumstances. You are not hoping the universe will grant your wishes. You are the universe granting your wishes. And here is the promise. Persist in any assumption, and it must manifest in your experience. Hold any feeling consistently, and it will crystallize as your reality. Assume any state persistently, and you will find yourself living in that state. But here is the warning. This law works whether you understand it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you use it consciously or unconsciously. You are always assuming. You are always feeling. You are always creating. The question is not whether you will manifest. The question is what you will manifest. If you assume lack, you will experience poverty. If you assume unworthiness, you will be treated as unworthy. If you assume sickness, your body will comply. If you assume limitation, you will find yourself limited at every turn. But if you assume abundance, wealth will flow to you. If you assume worthiness, life will treat you as the royalty you are. If you assume perfect health, vitality will be your natural state. If you assume infinite possibility, limitations will dissolve before you like morning mist, before the rising sun. Right now in this moment, you stand at the crossroads of all possibility. Behind you lies the old way of living, reactive, hopeful, dependent on external conditions for your inner state. Ahead of you lies the new way, creative, certain, generating your outer conditions from your inner state. You can continue to live as if you are at the mercy of circumstances, waiting for the world to change so you can feel better. Or you can begin to live as if you are the source of circumstances, feeling better so the world will change. You can keep trying to manifest through effort, struggle, and force. Or you can begin to manifest through assumption, feeling, and faith. You can remain a beggar at the gates of your own kingdom, or you can walk through those gates and claim the throne that has always been yours. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. It will always be yours. If you choose the path of assumption, if you dare to make feeling your secret, then everything begins now. Not tomorrow. Not when conditions improve. Not when you feel more worthy. Now. Assume now that your deepest desire has already been fulfilled. Feel now as if your greatest dream has already come true. Live now as if your most cherished hope has already materialized. Do not wait for evidence. Be the evidence. Do not look for signs. Be the sign. Do not hope for proof. Be the proof. You are not preparing for manifestation. You are manifesting. You are not getting ready to create. You are creating. You are not moving toward your desires. Your desires are moving through you. Feel it, know it, live it, and watch in wonder as the world reorganizes itself around the truth you have dared to assume. Feeling is the secret. It always has been. It always will be. And now that you know, you can never unknow. Now that you understand, you can never go back to unconscious creation. You are awakening to your power. You are remembering your divinity. You are discovering that you are not a victim of reality. You are the creator of reality, and that changes everything. The feeling is the secret, and the secret is now yours.
Good evening, my friends. Tonight I want to share with you something that most teachers of this law will never tell you. Not because they wish to withhold it from you, but because they themselves have not discovered it. It is a technique so simple, so profound, so radically different from everything you have been taught, that when you truly grasp it, you will never approach manifestation the same way again. You see, for years, I have taught you about living in the end. I have told you to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, to sleep in the state of your desire realized. And this is true. This is the foundation. This works. But tonight I want to reveal to you something that goes even deeper. Something that penetrates consciousness in a way that future imagining cannot. I call it the technique of the thankful past. Let me show you what most of you are doing wrong. Even when you think you are doing everything right. When you desire something, where do you place it in your mind? You project it into the future. When I have money, I will be happy. When I meet my love, I will be fulfilled. When my business succeeds, I will be grateful. When my body heals, I will be at peace. You see what you are doing? You see the trap you have fallen into? You are perpetually pushing your desire away from you. You are placing it in a time that never comes. Tomorrow never arrives, my friends. Tomorrow is always one day away. There is only ever now, only this eternal present moment. And yet you keep throwing your desires into an imaginary future. And then you wonder why they never manifest. They never manifest because you have placed them in a dimension that does not exist. The future is not real. It is a concept, a mental construct, a phantom. Only now is real. Only now has creative power. But here is what they do not want you to know. Here is the secret that will transform everything. Here is the key that unlocks a door most people do not even know exists. Your imagination responds most powerfully not to future desire, but to past fulfillment. Let me say that again, because this is the hinge upon which everything turns. Your subconscious mind, which is God in you, which is the creative power that produces your world, responds with magnificent, overwhelming, irresistible power when you remember your desire as something that has already happened. Think about this carefully. When you imagine something in the future, what is present in your consciousness, there is always a subtle tension. There is waiting. There is hoping. There is trying. There is the gap between here and there, between now and then, between who you are and who you will be. There is separation. There is time. There is distance. But when you remember something from the past, everything changes. When you recall a memory, there is a certainty, a completeness, a naturalness that requires no effort at all. There is no trying. There is no hoping. There is no waiting. It simply is. It is done. It is finished. It is behind you. Think about your most cherished memory right now. Perhaps a moment of joy from your childhood. Perhaps a triumph you experienced years ago. Perhaps a moment of love that is now gone but lives forever in your heart. When you recall it, do you have to try to believe it happened? Do you have to convince yourself it was real? Do you have to work to feel it? Of course not. It carries its own authority. It is simply done, complete, unquestionable. This is the secret, and it is so simple that the complicated mind dismisses it. This is what I want you to understand tonight. Imagine your desire not as something that will be, but as something that was. Let me take you deeper into why this works, into the mechanics of consciousness that make this technique so extraordinarily powerful. Your subconscious mind, which is the creator of your reality, does not think in future tense. It does not respond to I will be, or I am going to, or someday I shall. These are the languages of doubt, of separation, of powerlessness. These are the words of someone who does not have, who is waiting, who is hoping, but your subconscious responds instantly, completely, totally to I am, and even more powerfully to I was. Why? Because I am is present possession, and I was is completed action. Both are facts in consciousness. Both are declarations of what is, not what might be. When you say I will be wealthy, you are affirming that you are not wealthy now. When you say I am wealthy, you are claiming it in this moment. But when you say I became wealthy 3 months ago, you are doing something even more profound. You are placing your desire in the category of accomplished fact. You are remembering it. And memory is the most powerful form of imagination. Listen to me carefully. What is memory? Memory is imagination of the past. What is imagination? Imagination is memory of the future. They are the same faculty, the same power, operating in different directions in time. But here is the secret. The past feels more real than the future because it has the seal of completion upon it. Now let me give you the technique itself. The exact method you will use tonight and every night until your desire hardens into fact. Suppose you desire wealth. Most of you would imagine yourselves in the future, surrounded by abundance, and you would try to feel wealthy. And yes, this can work. I have taught this for years, and it works. But how much more powerful would it be to sit quietly tonight, close your eyes, and construct a memory, a false memory, if you will, of the day you became wealthy. Not tomorrow, not next week, not in some vague future, but that day in the past when it happened, the day that has already passed, the day you can remember. Imagine yourself 3 months ago, or 1 month ago, or even just 2 weeks ago. Whatever feels most natural to you, see yourself opening that letter, receiving that phone call, signing those documents, having that conversation, experiencing that moment when everything changed. Feel the relief, the joy, the gratitude, the shock, the excitement you felt on that day. Not tomorrow, that day that has already passed. That day that is now behind you, that day you can remember. Create the memory so vividly, so completely, so real that it feels as though it actually occurred. See the room you were in. Feel the temperature, hear the sounds. Notice what you were wearing. Who else was there? What time of day was it? Make it specific. Make it detailed. Make it real. Tell yourself and feel the truth of these words as you say them. I remember when it happened. I remember how surprised I was. I remember the moment I realized everything had changed. I remember calling my friend to share the news. I remember that feeling of relief, that sense of knowing I would never have to worry about this again. Do you see the difference now? Do you feel how different this is? You are not hoping it will happen. You are not even believing it is happening now. You are remembering that it happened, and memory carries a conviction that imagination of the future can rarely achieve. Now let me explain why this technique is so extraordinarily effective, why it penetrates consciousness in a way that nothing else quite does. When you create a memory of your wish fulfilled, when you remember backwards from the present moment to that imaginary point in the past, when your desire was realized, you do something magical, something mystical, something that changes the very structure of your consciousness. You collapse time itself. You see, when you imagine something in the future, you are placing it at a distance. There is space between you and it. There is time between you and it. You are here, it is there. And as long as there is distance, there is separation. And as long as there is separation, there is effort. And effort implies lack. But when you remember something, when you place it in the past, there is no distance. It is not separated from you by time. It is behind you. It is done. It is finished. You are standing in the present as one who has already received, one who has already experienced, one who has already been transformed by this event. Can you feel the difference? When your desire is in the future, you are waiting for it to arrive. But when your desire is in the past, it has already arrived. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer hoping. You are no longer striving. You are resting. You are grateful. You are complete. The universe, you see, and this may shock you, does not distinguish between a memory that occurred in what you call objective reality and a memory you have constructed in imagination. To your subconscious mind, to God in you, they are equally real. Both are imagined. Both are consciousness. Both are creative. Let me say something that may sound radical, but is absolutely true. Every reality you have ever experienced began as imagination. There is no difference, none whatsoever, between what you call real memories and imagined ones, except the order in which they occurred. What you imagine first becomes what you remember later. Think about that. Every memory you have of yesterday was once imagination. Before yesterday happened, it was imagination. Then it became experience. Then it became memory. But it was always imagination first. So why not reverse it? Why not remember first, and let the objective reality catch up with your memory? Why not imagine backwards instead of forwards? This is not deception, my friends. This is not fantasy or denial of reality. This is creation. This is how God creates. This is how you as God create. by imagining and declaring it is finished. Not it will be finished, not it is being finished, but it is finished. Done, complete, already accomplished. Now let me give you the exact specific practical technique that you will use starting tonight. Before you sleep, choose your desire. It can be anything: wealth, love, health, success, reconciliation, healing, opportunity, anything at all. But choose one thing and be specific. Know exactly what you want. Now, instead of imagining it in the future, I want you to construct a scene that implies it has already happened. But here is the key. Place this scene in your recent past. Imagine yourself 1 week ago, or 1 month ago, or 3 months ago, whatever feels natural to you, whatever your mind can accept most easily, and see yourself in a moment that implies your wish has already been fulfilled. Perhaps you are talking to a friend on the phone and saying, "I am so grateful it worked out. I can hardly believe how perfectly it all came together. I was so worried, but now I see there was never anything to worry about." Or perhaps you are looking at your bank statement from last month and smiling at the balance, thinking, "I remember when I used to check this with fear. Now I check it with joy." Or perhaps you are lying in bed beside your beloved thinking, "I remember when I used to sleep alone. I remember how much I longed for this. That feels like another lifetime now." Or perhaps you are looking in the mirror, seeing your healthy body, thinking, "I remember the day I got the test results. I remember calling my mother to tell her. I remember how I cried with relief." Create this memory with all your senses. Make it detailed, vivid, real. See the scene. Hear the sounds. Feel the emotions. Smell the air. Taste the moment. Engage every sense. And here is the crucial part, the element that makes this technique transcend all others. Feel the relief of it being behind you. Feel the gratitude that it has already occurred. Feel the freedom of no longer needing to wait or hope or try, because it is done, finished, complete. It is history. It is your past. This feeling, this sensation of relief, of completion, of grateful remembrance, this is what impresses your subconscious most deeply. This is what tells your creative power. This is real. This has happened. This is done. Now, I want to give you one more key. One more element that will make this technique even more powerful, even more penetrating, even more effective. Gratitude. But not the gratitude you think. Not the gratitude of someone who is hoping for something. Not the gratitude you practice to attract something. Not future gratitude. Past gratitude. When you remember your desire as already fulfilled, let gratitude fill your heart. But feel the specific quality of this gratitude. It is the gratitude of someone who has received. The gratitude of someone for whom the struggle is over. The gratitude of looking back at a problem that is now solved. A need that is now met, a desire that is now fulfilled. Say to yourself, and mean it, feel it, "I am so grateful that happened when it did. The timing was perfect. I am so glad I do not have to worry about that anymore. I am so thankful it worked out exactly as it did." Do you hear the past tense in those words? Do you feel the completion? This is not "I will be grateful when." This is not "I am grateful in advance for." This is "I am grateful that it happened." Past, complete, done. Gratitude in the past tense is one of the most powerful vibrations you can emit. It tells your subconscious mind with absolute clarity, "This is done. This is complete. I have received. The matter is settled." And your faithful subconscious, which only knows to say yes to your assumptions, which only knows to create what you believe, will work day and night in ways you cannot imagine to make your outer world match your inner conviction. It will orchestrate circumstances. It will arrange events. It will bring people into your life. It will open doors you did not know existed. It will create opportunities that seem to come from nowhere. All to prove right what you have assumed. All to make objective what you have imagined. My friends, I want you to understand something at the deepest level. You are not manipulating some external force. You are not trying to convince a deity somewhere in the sky to grant you a favor. You are not begging. You are not bargaining. You are not trying to be good enough or worthy enough. You are God imagining. And God does not imagine in the future. God imagines, and it is. When God said, "Let there be light," did he mean let there be light tomorrow? Did he mean let there be light next week? Did he mean I hope there will be light someday? No. Let there be light means light exists now because it has been imagined. It is immediate. It is present. It is done. This is how you must imagine. Not as a human, hoping God will answer, but as God, knowing that what you imagine is. And here is the secret within the secret. When you remember something, when you place it in the past, you are assuming it even more powerfully than when you imagine it in the present, because the past is completed. The past is done. The past cannot be changed, you think. But you are wrong. The past can be changed in imagination. And when you change the past in imagination, you change everything. So tonight I invite you to stop. Stop projecting your desires into an endless tomorrow. Stop waiting for some future moment when you will finally be happy, finally be fulfilled, finally be free, finally have what you want. Instead, remember it. Remember the day it happened, how it felt. Remember the relief, the joy, the gratitude, the peace. Remember that you no longer have to wait because it is already done. Remember that you no longer have to hope because you have already received. Remember that you no longer have to try because it has already happened. You are not manifesting from the future backward. You are manifesting from the past forward. And in doing so, you eliminate the one thing that destroys more manifestations than anything else in the world. The feeling of waiting, of separation, of time standing between you and your desire. There is no time. This is the great secret. There is only now. And in the now, you can remember anything you choose. The past is as fluid as the future. Both are imagination, both are consciousness, both are creative. So choose to remember your desire fulfilled. Choose to remember it as something that already happened. Choose to place it behind you rather than in front of you. Choose to be grateful for what has already occurred, rather than hopeful for what might occur. This is not a trick. This is not a technique in the ordinary sense. This is a shift in consciousness. This is a transformation in how you relate to time itself. This is stepping into the eternal now where all things already are. Go now and test this. Tonight before sleep, construct your memory. Make it vivid. Make it real. Make it detailed. Feel it. Return to it daily. Elaborate it. Live in it. And in a very short time, perhaps shorter than you imagine, perhaps shorter than seems possible, you will find that what you remembered in imagination has become what you remember in fact. The memory you created will have created the experience. The past you imagined will have become the past you lived. And you will stand in wonder knowing that you have discovered one of the deepest secrets of creation. This is the law. This is the promise. And it cannot fail. It has never failed. It will never fail because it is not dependent on anything outside of you. It is dependent only on your imagination. And your imagination is God. And God cannot fail. Remember your wish fulfilled. Do this and all else will follow. Thank you and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I will see you in the next video. Good evening, my friends. Tonight I want to speak to you about a principle that will revolutionize how you approach wealth, abundance, and prosperity. A principle so simple, so profound, yet so completely misunderstood that most people spend their entire lives chasing money without ever becoming rich. Here it is. You must be rich before the money comes. Not after. Not once you finally get the money. Before. You must be rich in consciousness before you can ever be rich in manifestation. You must feel wealthy before your bank account reflects wealth. You must assume abundance before abundance assumes form. This goes against everything you've been taught. You've been told that first you work hard, then you make money, and finally only then do you get to feel rich. But that is backwards. That is the thinking of those who live in the world of effects, who believe that circumstances create consciousness, who think that having creates being. I am here to tell you being creates having, consciousness creates circumstance. What you are in your inner world must appear in your outer world. And if you are not rich in consciousness, you will never be rich in manifestation, no matter how much money passes through your hands. Let me show you something that most never understand. There is a profound difference between having money and being rich. I have known many people with substantial bank accounts who were poor. Their consciousness was poverty. Their inner conversations were lack. Their feeling about themselves was limitation. They had money, yes, but they were not rich. They were poor people who happened to temporarily possess wealth. And I have known people with empty pockets who were rich. Their consciousness was abundance. Their inner world was overflow. Their feeling about themselves was prosperity. They had no money, but they were rich. They were wealthy people who hadn't yet seen their inner riches reflected in the outer world. And here's what's crucial. The person who is rich in consciousness without money will inevitably attract money, because the outer must conform to the inner. The world must reflect consciousness. But the person who has money without wealth consciousness will inevitably lose it, because money that doesn't match your consciousness cannot stay with you. This is why lottery winners lose their fortunes. This is why people who inherit wealth often squander it. This is why those who make money through luck or chance rarely keep it. They had money, but they were not rich. And the money left because it had no consciousness to anchor it. Now, what do I mean by wealth consciousness? What does it mean to be rich before money? It does not mean pretending you have money when you don't. It does not mean acting wealthy externally while feeling poor internally. It does not mean spending money you don't have to create an illusion of prosperity. Wealth consciousness is a state of being. It is how you feel about yourself in relation to the world. It is your inner conviction about provision, about worthiness, about flow. Let me describe this consciousness to you, so you recognize it when you touch it. A person with wealth consciousness feels provided for, not because their bank account is full, but because they know deep in their being that they are always taken care of. They expect the universe to provide. They assume that whatever they need will come, not as a hope, but as a knowing. A person with wealth consciousness feels worthy. They don't question whether they deserve good things. They don't sabotage blessings with guilt. They don't diminish themselves to make others comfortable. They simply know they are worthy of abundance, and they accept it naturally. The person with wealth consciousness feels free. Money is not a prison. Lack is not a dictator. They make decisions from desire, not from desperation. They choose based on what they want, not what they can afford. Even when their current circumstances are limited, their consciousness is expansive. A person with wealth consciousness feels abundant. They notice what they have, not what they lack. They see overflow, not scarcity. They experience richness in their relationships, their experiences, their inner life, regardless of their bank balance. This is the consciousness that creates wealth, not the consciousness that waits for wealth to create it. Here's the mistake most people make. They believe they'll feel wealthy once they have money. When I have $10,000 in the bank, then I'll feel secure. When I make 6 figures, then I'll feel abundant. When I'm debt-free, then I'll feel free. But this is impossible, because feeling is what creates, not what results from creation. You cannot feel secure once you have money. You must feel secure first, and then money comes to confirm your security. You cannot feel abundant once you make more. You must feel abundant now, and then more flows to match your abundance. You cannot feel free once you're debt-free. You must feel free in consciousness, and then your circumstances will reflect that freedom. The feeling must come first, always. Without exception, this is law. Scripture tells us, believe that you have received, and you will receive. Not receive, and then you'll believe. The belief, the feeling, the consciousness must come before the manifestation. Let me show you the consciousness of poverty so you can recognize when you're dwelling in it. A poor person, and I don't mean someone without money, I mean someone with poverty consciousness thinks about money constantly. They obsess over it. They check their balance compulsively. They calculate every expense. They worry about it day and night. Why? Because they don't have it in consciousness. They're not rich internally, so they desperately try to create richness externally. A poor person feels restricted by money. Every decision is filtered through, can I afford this? Every desire is followed by, but that costs too much. They live in a cage built by numbers in a bank account. A poor person hoards. They grip tightly to every dollar. They're afraid to spend, afraid to give, afraid to circulate. Because in their consciousness there is not enough. There will never be enough. They must hold on to what little they have. A poor person resents others' wealth. They see someone prosperous and feel diminished. They think that should be me, or they don't deserve that, or must be nice to have money. They make wealth wrong, abundance suspicious, prosperity something to envy rather than embody. A poor person believes money is hard to get. They assume you must struggle, sacrifice, suffer to earn. That wealth requires exhausting effort. That abundance comes only to the lucky few. This is poverty consciousness. And you can have this consciousness while sitting on $1 million. Because consciousness is not determined by your circumstances. Consciousness determines your circumstances. Now let me show you the consciousness of wealth. A rich person, someone who is rich in consciousness, whether or not money has manifested yet, thinks about money rarely. Not because they're irresponsible, but because they're not worried. Money is handled, dealt with, managed, but not obsessed over. It doesn't dominate their thoughts. Why? Because they have it in consciousness. They feel wealthy internally, so they don't need to constantly monitor external conditions. A rich person feels free with money. They make decisions based on desire, alignment, what feels right, not based solely on cost. Even when their current resources are limited, they think from abundance, not from lack. A rich person circulates. They give generously. They spend freely. They tip well. They share abundantly. Not recklessly, but from an inner knowing that what flows out will flow back in multiplied. They understand that circulation creates increase. A rich person celebrates others' wealth. They see someone prosperous and feel inspired. They think if they can have that, so can I. Or their abundance proves abundance is available. Or I'm happy for them. They make wealth good, abundance natural, prosperity something to assume, rather than envy. A rich person believes money is natural to receive. They don't struggle for it. They expect it. They assume it flows to them easily. They know that their consciousness of wealth attracts wealth effortlessly. This is wealth consciousness. And you can have this consciousness while your bank account is empty. Because consciousness creates reality. What you are within determines what appears without. So how do you cultivate wealth consciousness? How do you become rich before money? Not through pretending. Not through affirmations you don't believe. Not through acting wealthy when you feel poor, but through a shift in your inner world. A transformation of how you see yourself. How you relate to the world. How you move through your days. Let me give you specific practices. First, change your inner conversations about money. Most people have a continuous internal dialogue of lack. I can't afford that. I don't have enough. Money's so tight. I'm always broke. I wish I had more. Every one of these thoughts is an impression on your subconscious mind. Every one of these statements is an assumption that hardens into fact. You are creating poverty with your words, even if no one else hears them. Starting today, you must revise your inner speech. You must speak to yourself as a wealthy person speaks to themselves. Not I don't have enough, but I have everything I need and more is flowing to me. Not money's so tight, but money flows to me easily and naturally. Not I'm always broke, but I am abundantly provided for. Not I wish I had more, but I am grateful for the wealth I have and the wealth that's coming. Do you see the difference? One creates poverty, the other creates wealth. Your inner conversations are your most powerful creative tool. Use them to build wealth consciousness, not reinforce lack. Second, make decisions from abundance, not from scarcity. Every day you make countless small decisions, and each one is made from either abundance consciousness or lack consciousness. When you see something you'd like but don't buy it, because I can't afford it, you're deciding from lack. When you don't take an opportunity because what if it doesn't work out, and I lose money, you're deciding from lack. When you say no to an experience because I need to save, you're deciding from lack. I'm not telling you to be financially irresponsible. I'm telling you to check the consciousness behind your decisions. A person with wealth consciousness might choose not to buy something, but they'd think, I'm choosing to allocate my resources differently, or that doesn't align with my values, or I'm prioritizing something else right now. Not I can't afford it. That's poverty speaking. Start making decisions, even small ones, from a consciousness of abundance. Choose from desire, not from fear. Select from alignment, not from limitation. This shift in decision-making changes your entire consciousness. Third, give from your current resources. This is one of the most powerful practices for building wealth consciousness, and one of the most resisted. When you have little, your poverty consciousness says, I can't give. I barely have enough for myself. Once I have more, then I'll give. But this is backwards. Giving creates the consciousness of having. Giving affirms abundance. Giving tells your subconscious, I have more than enough. I have overflow. You don't give because you have excess. You give to create the consciousness of excess. Jesus said, give, and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. He didn't say receive and then you'll be able to give. The giving comes first. The giving creates the receiving. So starting today, give from whatever you have. If you have $100, give $5. If you have $20, give $2. If you have only $5, give 50 cents. The amount doesn't matter. The consciousness matters. When you give, even when it feels like you don't have enough, you're affirming to yourself and to God your own wonderful human imagination. I am abundant. I have more than enough. I am rich. And your subconscious, receiving this impression, begins to create conditions that match it. Fourth, notice what you already have. Poverty consciousness focuses on lack. Wealth consciousness focuses on abundance. Right now, look around your life. You have abundance everywhere, but you're not seeing it because you're trained to see lack. You have a place to live. You have food. You have clothing. You have relationships. You have abilities. You have opportunities. You have thoughts, imagination, consciousness itself. You have wealth that billions of people throughout history never possessed. Yet you feel poor because you're comparing yourself to those who have more, rather than appreciating what you actually possess. Gratitude for what you have creates the consciousness of abundance. And the consciousness of abundance attracts more to be abundant about. Start each day by really noticing what you already have. Not as a technique to get more, but as a genuine recognition of the wealth already present in your life. This shifts your consciousness from lack to abundance. And abundance consciousness creates abundant manifestations. Fifth, feel wealthy in your body. Consciousness is not just mental, it's felt in the body. A person with poverty consciousness walks hunched, hurried, tense. They carry stress in their shoulders. They move through the world as if they're late, behind, not enough. A person with wealth consciousness moves differently. They stand tall. They walk with ease. They're unhurried, unrushed, present. Their body language communicates, I have time, I have space, I have enough. Starting today, notice how you carry yourself. Are you moving like someone who's poor or someone who's rich? Walk like you're wealthy. Sit like you're abundant. Breathe like you're provided for. Not as pretending, but as claiming the consciousness of wealth in your very cells. Your body follows your consciousness, yes, but your consciousness can also follow your body. When you move like someone rich, you begin to feel rich. And when you feel rich, you become rich. Let me tell you what happens when you truly make this shift. When you stop waiting for money to make you feel wealthy, and instead choose to feel wealthy now, everything changes. You stop being desperate. Desperation repels money. Wealthy consciousness attracts it. You stop making fear-based decisions. You start making aligned decisions, and aligned decisions create wealth. You stop resenting others' success. You start celebrating it as proof that abundance is available. And what you celebrate, you attract. You stop gripping money tightly. You start letting it flow. And flow creates increase. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances. You start knowing you're the creator of circumstances. And creators create wealth. The shift from I'll be rich when I have money to I'm rich now, and money is on its way, is the shift that changes your entire financial reality. Not eventually. Not someday. Now in consciousness. And then inevitably in manifestation. Tonight before you sleep, you're going to assume wealth consciousness for the first time, regardless of your current financial situation. Close your eyes. Forget your bank balance. Forget your debt. Forget your bills. Forget everything your senses are telling you about lack, and feel wealthy. Not I'm going to be wealthy. Not I want to be wealthy. Not I'm becoming wealthy. But I am wealthy. Right now, in this moment, in consciousness. Feel what it's like to be a person who is abundantly provided for. A person who expects good things. A person who trusts completely. A person who feels worthy of wealth. A person who knows without question that they are rich. Not the things wealth would buy. Not the experiences wealth would provide. But the state of being wealthy. The consciousness of wealth. The identity of richness. Dwell there. Rest there. Fall asleep there. Impress this consciousness on your subconscious as you drift into sleep. Let the last thought you think be, I am rich. I am abundant. I am provided for. And tomorrow, wake up as that person. Don't check your bank account to see if you're rich. You already know you're rich in consciousness. And that's the only place wealth ever begins. Move through tomorrow from wealth consciousness. Speak from abundance. Decide from prosperity. Give from overflow. Notice from richness. Be rich before money. And watch how quickly money comes to confirm what you already are in consciousness. If you commit to this practice, if you truly cultivate wealth consciousness regardless of your circumstances, if you become rich in your inner world, before you see riches in your outer world, you will become wealthy. Not because you worked harder, not because you got lucky, not because circumstances changed, but because you changed in consciousness. And changed consciousness creates changed conditions. You cannot be rich in consciousness and remain poor in manifestation. It's impossible. Because the outer must reflect the inner. The world must conform to consciousness. So stop waiting for money to make you feel rich. Start feeling rich, and watch money rush to confirm what you already are. You are not poor. You've just been dwelling in poverty consciousness. You are rich. You've always been rich. You just need to claim it in consciousness before it can manifest in form. Be rich before money, and money will have no choice but to follow. Thank you, and good evening. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video. Listen carefully. What I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know about changing your life. You've been trying to become someone new. You've been working on your self-concept, building confidence, affirming who you want to be. You visualize. You repeat affirmations. You live in the end. And it's exhausting. Because you're trying to convince yourself you're someone different while still remembering everything that made you who you are. Every failure, every rejection, every moment you weren't enough, every time someone told you that you couldn't, every disappointment, every setback, every time you tried and it didn't work. You're carrying all of it, and you're trying to become someone new while dragging this entire history behind you like chains. It doesn't work. You can't build a new identity on top of an old foundation. The old stories are too heavy. The old evidence is too convincing. The old memories are too vivid. The old version of you keeps pulling you back because you remember being them. You remember being shy. So becoming confident feels like climbing a mountain. You remember struggling with money. So becoming abundant feels impossible. You remember being rejected, so believing you're loved feels like a lie. The past is always there, whispering, but you're not really that person. Remember who you actually are. Remember what really happened. Remember how things really went. And you believe it, because you do remember. And the memories feel more real than the new identity you're trying to claim. So here's what you're going to do instead. Close your eyes right now. I'm serious. Close them. Now I want you to imagine that you just woke up. But something's different. You have no memory of who you were. Complete amnesia. You can't remember your past. All of it, every single memory that formed your identity. Gone, erased, disappeared. You're sitting here right now with a completely blank internal slate. No history, no story, no identity from the past, weighing you down or propping you up. No reference points, no evidence, no proof of who you've been. Just nothing. A clean, empty, open space where your identity used to be. And in this space, someone walks up to you. Maybe it's a doctor. Maybe it's a friend you don't remember. Maybe it's just a stranger. And they ask you the simplest question in the world. Who are you? And you realize you have no idea. You can't pull from your past because you don't have one. You can't reference your history because it's gone. You can't say, well, I've always been this way, because you don't remember always. You can't say, people have told me I'm like this, because you don't remember people or what they said. You have absolutely nothing to pull from except this present moment, right here, right now, with complete freedom. So you get to decide, not based on evidence, not based on proof, not based on what happened before, but based purely on choice in this exact moment. Who are you? Stay with me here, because this is where it gets profound. When you have no memory, when you have no past, when you have no story, you realize something shocking. Identity is a choice, not a fact, not a reality, a choice. Without your memories, you're not anything. You're pure potential, pure possibility, a blank canvas, an empty page. And whoever you decide to be in that moment, that's who you are. Not because you built it, not because you earned it, not because you have evidence, but because you chose it. Let me ask you again. You have complete memory loss. No past, no history, no story. And someone asks, who are you? Are you confident? Then you're confident. That's just who you are. You don't need to remember moments of confidence to be confident. You don't need proof. You don't need evidence. You just are. Are you wealthy? Then you're wealthy. You don't need to remember earning money. You don't need to trace the path from poor to rich. You don't need to justify it or explain it. You just are. Are you loved? Then you're loved. You don't need to remember people loving you. You don't need to reference past relationships. You don't need proof that anyone cares. You just are. Are you successful, powerful, peaceful, healthy, free, beautiful, worthy, enough? Then you are. Right now, in this moment. Because you have no past telling you otherwise. You have no memories contradicting you. You have no story arguing against you. You just are. This is the power of complete forgetting. You're not building a new identity on top of the old one. You're wiping the slate completely clean and choosing who you are from absolute nothing. And the person you choose to be, that's real. That's true. That's you. Not because of what you've done or what's happened or what people have said, but because you decided. Here's what I need you to understand. That past, it only has power because you keep giving it power. It only defines you because you keep letting it define you. Every time you say, I'm not confident because I remember being shy, you're choosing your past over your present. Every time you say, I can't be wealthy because I've always struggled, you're letting old memories override your current choice. Every time you say, I'm not lovable because I remember being rejected, you're making the past more real than the now. But what if you stopped doing that? What if you treated your past like it happened to someone else? What if you looked at your memories the way you'd look at someone else's story, interesting but not relevant to who you are right now? Because here's the truth. that will set you free. Your past doesn't determine your identity unless you let it. Your history doesn't define who you are unless you choose to let it define you. Your memories don't control your present unless you give them that control. You could right now in this moment forget all of it. Not literally erase the memories, but forget them in the sense of releasing their grip on your identity. Forget them in the sense of no longer letting them vote on who you are. You could decide that who you were yesterday, last week, last year, 10 years ago, that person is gone. That story is over. That version of you is finished. And right now you're someone completely different. Not because you slowly transformed. Not because you worked hard to change. But because you simply forgot the old identity and chose a new one. Let me show you what you've been doing your whole life without realizing it. You wake up every morning, and before you even open your eyes fully, you remember who you are. You remember your name, you remember your life, you remember your struggles and your victories. You remember how you are, what you're like, what you can and can't do. And in remembering all of this, you step back into the identity you had yesterday. You put on the same personality like putting on the same clothes. You become the same person again. Then throughout your day, you reinforce this identity constantly. You think thoughts that match who you remember being. You make decisions based on who you've always been. You react to situations the way you've always reacted. You speak the way you've always spoken. And every time you do this, you strengthen the identity. You make it more solid, more real, more you. But here's what's wild. That identity, it's not you. It's a story. A collection of selected memories that you've decided to call me. You chose which experiences to remember, which to emphasize, which to let define you. You constructed this identity piece by piece, memory by memory, experience by experience. And now you're trapped in it. Because you keep remembering it. You keep referencing it. You keep going back to it. You want to be confident, but you keep remembering being shy. You want to be wealthy, but you keep remembering struggling. You want to be loved, but you keep remembering rejection. The new identity can't take hold because you won't let go of the old one. You're trying to be two people at once, and it's tearing you apart. So, here's what you're going to do instead. You're going to practice selective forgetting, strategic amnesia, deliberate memory loss. Every morning when you wake up, before you think about your day, before you step back into who you were yesterday, you're going to take a moment to forget. Close your eyes, take a breath, and imagine that overnight while you were sleeping, all your memories of who you've been just dissolved, evaporated, disappeared. You don't remember being insecure. Gone. You don't remember struggling. Erased. You don't remember being rejected. Vanished. You don't remember failing. Deleted. All the memories that formed your old identity, they're just not there anymore. Like they happened to someone else in another life. Or like they never happened at all. And in this space of complete forgetfulness, you ask yourself, who am I? Not who was I? Not who have I been? Who am I right now in this moment? With no past to reference. And you choose freely, completely, with no guilt, no doubt, no contradiction. I am confident. Say it, feel it, know it. Not as something you're becoming. Not as something you're trying to convince yourself of, but a simple truth. You are confident. That's just who you are. No story needed. I am wealthy. Say it, feel it, know it. You don't need to remember being wealthy. You don't need to trace the path. You just are, right now. Present tense, current reality. I am loved. Say it, feel it, know it. You don't need proof. You don't need evidence. You don't need anyone's validation. You just are. Whatever identity you desire, claim it. Not as future, not as hope, but as present fact. Because you've forgotten everything that said you weren't. Spend time just being this person. No history, no proof, no story, no justification. Pure identity, pure being. pure choice. Here's what makes this so powerful. When you truly forget who you were, you don't need proof of who you are. You just are. Think about it. Someone with real memory loss doesn't say, I think I might be confident, but let me check my past to see if there's evidence. They can't check their past. It's gone. So whatever they feel themselves to be in the present moment, that's what they are. No verification needed. This is the consciousness you're cultivating. You're not building an identity on past achievements. You're not waiting for evidence to confirm who you are. You're not looking for proof in your history. You're simply choosing who you are right now, and that choice is enough. Complete, total, final. No proof needed, no evidence required, no history necessary. Just pure present moment identity chosen from complete forgetfulness of everything that said you were anything else. And when you claim identity this way, from nothing, from emptiness, from pure choice, it's unshakable. Because there's no past to contradict it. No memory to argue with it, no story to undermine it. You just are. And that's that. Now let me take you even deeper. Because there's a level of forgetting that most people never reach. A level that completely transforms how you experience reality. You're not just forgetting who you were. You're forgetting that you ever needed to become anything. Most people approach identity change like this. I am this now, but I want to become that. They acknowledge their current state and then try to get to a new state. They see themselves on a journey from lack to fulfillment, from limitation to freedom, from unworthiness to worthiness. But when you forget completely, you realize there is no journey, there is no becoming, there is no gap between who you are and who you want to be. There's only choosing right now, in this moment, with complete amnesia about any state other than the one you're selecting. You don't remember ever being unconfident, so you're not becoming confident, you just are confident. You don't remember ever lacking, so you're not becoming abundant. You just are abundant. You don't remember ever being unloved, so you're not becoming loved. You just are loved. The entire concept of transformation dissolves when you forget, because transformation implies movement from one state to another. But if you have no memory of the first state, there's no movement. There's just being. This is the deepest level of forgetting. Forgetting not just your past identity, but forgetting that you were ever anything other than what you choose to be right now. And from this place of complete forgetfulness, identity becomes instantaneous. Not a process, not a journey, not a gradual shift. Instant, immediate. Now, here's a practice that will deepen this even further. Throughout your day-to-day, act as if you just arrived in your life. Like you just woke up in this body, in this situation, with no memory of how you got here. You look around and you see your apartment, your job, your relationships, your bank account, your body, and you have no idea how any of it came to be. You don't remember the choices that led here. You don't remember the past that created this present. You're just here. Now, with complete forgetfulness of the journey. And from this place of complete newness, you ask yourself, how do I want to respond to this situation as the person I am now? Not how have I always responded. Not what does my past say I should do, but who am I right now, and how does this version of me move through this moment? Someone at work treats you poorly. Normally you might remember past instances of this, might recall your history of being walked over, might respond from the identity of someone who accepts mistreatment. But you've forgotten. You don't remember being that person. So you respond as who you are now, confident, worthy, clear about your boundaries. Not because you worked up the courage, but because you forgot you were ever anything else. You check your bank account and see a number that would normally trigger lack consciousness. But you've forgotten scarcity. You don't remember struggling. So you look at the number with complete neutrality and choose, I am abundant. This number is irrelevant to who I am. You wake up alone and would normally feel the weight of loneliness, the memory of rejection, the story of being unwanted. But you've forgotten all of it. So you wake up as someone who is loved, who is wanted, who is chosen, regardless of who's physically in the bed. Every moment becomes a fresh start. Every interaction becomes a new choice. Every experience becomes an opportunity to forget and choose again. This practice, this constant forgetting and choosing, gives you something most people never experience in their entire lives. Complete freedom from your past. You're not a prisoner of your history. You're not defined by your experiences. You're not limited by who you've been. You're not trapped in patterns that have repeated for years or decades. Every single moment you forget. Every single moment you choose fresh. Every single moment you are whoever you decide to be with no reference to anything that came before. This is power. Real power. Not the power to control others or circumstances, but the power to choose your own identity independent of anything external. You're not at the mercy of your memories. You're not controlled by your past. You're not determined by your conditioning. You're free. Completely, totally, absolutely free. Free to be confident even though you were shy. Free to be abundant even though you struggled. Free to be loved even though you were rejected. Free to be powerful even though you were weak. Free to be successful even though you failed. Because you forgot. And in forgetting you became unlimited. The limitations were just memories you kept reinforcing. The unworthiness was just a story you kept telling. The lack was just an identity you kept choosing. Now you're choosing differently. By forgetting completely and being fully. This is your power. This is your freedom. This is your truth. You're not becoming someone new. You're forgetting you were ever anyone old. And in that forgetting, you're discovering who you've always been, beneath all the stories, beneath all the memories, beneath all the conditioning. Pure consciousness. Pure being. Pure unlimited potential. Now go forget. And in forgetting, become everything you've always known you could be. The rest of your life starts now. And remember, you don't need to remember anything to be everything. In fact, the less you remember, the more you become. So forget completely, radically, constantly. And watch as your entire reality shifts to match the person you choose to be right now, in this moment, with no past to contradict you. This is who you are. This has always been who you are. You just forgot to forget. Now you know. Thank you, and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video. Good evening, my friends. Tonight I want to address something that I see destroying more manifestations than doubt, more dreams than fear, and more possibilities than disbelief combined. It is the desperate, anxious, violent energy of forcing. Perhaps you are listening to me now, and you feel a certain weariness, a spiritual exhaustion. You have done everything I have taught you to do. You have affirmed, you have visualized, you have walked in the assumption of your wish fulfilled as best you know how. And yet your desire remains at a distance. Perhaps it even feels further away now than when you first began. Maybe it is money that seems to slip through your fingers no matter how tightly you grasp. A relationship that refuses to blossom, no matter how hard you chase. A career that feels stuck, no matter how desperately you push. You chase, and it flees. You push, and it resists. You tighten your grip, and it dissolves like smoke between your fingers. What if I told you that the very effort you are applying is the only thing standing in your way? That the immense energy you are using to force your desire into being is the very reason it has not yet arrived. Tonight we will explore this delicate and most powerful art, the art of allowing. I will show you why letting go is not the same as giving up, but is in fact the highest form of faith. And I will teach you what to do instead of forcing, to finally let what you desire come to you as effortlessly and naturally as the sun rises in the morning. To understand why your intense effort may be failing you, you must first understand a strange and wonderful paradox that I have taught for years. When your will and your imagination are in conflict, your imagination will always win. The harder you try to consciously force a state with your will, while your imagination is convinced of its opposite, the more you amplify the very state you are trying to escape. Think of it like this. Imagine you are holding a cork underwater. The more you push it down, the more you feel its powerful urge to rise. The pressure builds, your effort increases, and the moment you release even slightly, it shoots to the surface with tremendous force. Your feeling of lack, your deep-seated belief that you do not have your desire. That is the cork. Your frantic effort is the force holding it down, constantly reminding you of its buoyancy, of its reality in your world. Let me tell you about a woman who came to me last year. She had been trying to manifest a specific amount of money for 6 months. Every day she visualized. Every night she affirmed. Every moment she tried to feel wealthy. But the money did not come. In fact, her financial situation was getting worse. Neville, she said, I'm doing everything you teach. I'm visualizing constantly. I'm affirming all day long. I'm forcing myself to feel abundant even when my bank account is empty. Why isn't it working? I watched her as she spoke, and I could see the tension in her body, hear the strain in her voice, feel the desperate energy radiating from her. She was like a coiled spring, wound so tight she was about to break. I said to her, my dear, you are not feeling abundant. You are forcing yourself to pretend you feel abundant. And there is a universe of difference between the two. Every time you force yourself to feel wealthy while your entire being screams, I am poor, you are actually reinforcing your poverty. You are broadcasting the frequency of lack with every strained affirmation. She looked confused. So I explained. You must understand that every feeling you entertain radiates a specific frequency. It is a broadcast. The frequency of lack is charged with anxiety, impatience, and the frantic energy of need. The frequency of fulfillment is one of peace, satisfaction, and quiet gratitude. Your effort, born of strain and force, is simply a prolonged broadcast of the frequency of lack. Think of the biblical story of Peter attempting to walk upon the water. As long as his attention was fixed upon his goal, upon the Master, he did the impossible. He defied the laws of the physical world. But the moment he looked away, the moment he saw the winds and the waves, the facts of his three-dimensional reality, doubt entered his mind. He began to sink. And in that moment of fear, he began to try. He began to force himself to stay afloat, to fight against the evidence of his senses. And the more he struggled against the storm, the faster he sank. His success came from a state of calm assumption. His failure came from a state of effort born of fear. That story is your story. Your desire is the Master calling to you. The winds and the waves are the doubts and contradictory facts of your current life. To struggle with them, to force against them, is to sink. Forcing is an admission to yourself that you are not in the state of the wish fulfilled. For if you truly were the person who had your desire, would you be struggling to obtain it? Would you be fighting for it? Would you be anxiously checking for signs of its arrival? No. You would be at peace. You would feel a quiet confidence. The feeling would be natural, effortless, as simple as breathing. So you see, the goal is not to try harder. The goal is to feel it differently. To feel it as normal, as simple, as natural as the air you breathe. So then, how does one cultivate this feeling of naturalness? How does one move from the violent energy of forcing to the quiet confidence of allowing? It is not accomplished by a grand single action, but by a series of subtle internal shifts. Let me share them with you now. The first shift is from getting to being. Your true work is not to acquire the thing you desire. It is to become, in imagination, the person who already has it. If you desire wealth, you do not spend your day anxiously chasing money, desperately trying to force abundance into your life. Instead, you ask yourself, what would my inner conversations be like if I were already wealthy? How would I see the world? What assumptions would I hold as true? How would I move through my day? Then you begin to think from that state. You are no longer a poor person wanting wealth. You are a wealthy person simply living your life. The difference is subtle but profound. I remember a businessman who came to me struggling with this exact issue. He had been trying to manifest a major business deal for months. Every day he visualized the contract signing. Every night he affirmed his success. But the deal kept slipping away. I asked him, when you visualize this deal, what are you feeling? He said, honestly, I feel desperate. I need this deal. Without it, my business might fail. So I'm forcing myself to see it happening. Forcing myself to believe it will work out. There is your problem, I told him. You are visualizing from the state of a desperate man who needs a deal to survive. But a successful businessman who has closed major deals before does not feel desperate. He feels confident, calm, assured. You must become that man in your imagination, not try to force that man into existence through strain and effort. I taught him to stop visualizing the moment of getting the deal, and instead to simply assume he was already the kind of businessman for whom such deals were natural and normal. To think from success rather than about success. Within 3 weeks, not only did that deal close, but 2 other unexpected opportunities appeared. He had stopped forcing and started allowing by becoming the person who naturally attracted such success. The second shift is understanding what it truly means to live in the end. Many of you have been taught that living in the end means constant, effortful visualization. It does not. Living in the end is a state of satisfaction. Think of how you feel after a wonderful meal. You do not continue to stare at the menu anxiously, hoping for food to arrive. You do not force yourself to feel full while your stomach is empty. You are satisfied. You are at peace. The meal is finished. That quiet satisfaction, that inner knowing that it is done, that is the true feeling of the wish fulfilled. Your imaginal act, your brief scene, implying your desire is fulfilled. That is the meal. And satisfaction is the state you must carry throughout your day. I knew a woman who wanted to marry a particular man. For months she visualized their wedding over and over again, multiple times per day, forcing herself to see every detail, straining to make it feel real. But he showed no signs of proposing. In fact, their relationship seemed to be growing more distant. When she came to me, I asked her, after you finish visualizing your wedding, how do you feel? She said, I feel anxious that it hasn't happened yet. I feel worried that I'm not doing it right. I feel desperate to do it again to make sure it works. I explained to her that these feelings were the problem. You are treating your imaginal act like a task you must perform perfectly and repeatedly. But the imaginal act is meant to produce a feeling of satisfaction. The feeling that it is already done. Once you have felt that satisfaction, you should be able to rest in it like a person who has eaten a good meal. I taught her to do her imaginal scene once, at night before sleep, and then to simply carry the satisfied feeling throughout her day. To feel like a woman who was already engaged, already loved, already claimed. Not to force this feeling, but to gently assume it as her natural state. Within 2 months he proposed. She had stopped forcing the outcome and started allowing it by resting in the satisfaction of the wish fulfilled. The third shift is discovering the secret of present moment fulfillment. All desperation springs from the feeling that something is missing now. The remedy is to feel fulfillment in this moment, even before your desire appears in physical form. This does not mean denying that you want something. It means finding fulfillment in your present moment so that you are not desperately grasping for the future to be different. At the end of each day, find one thing, anything, for which you can feel genuine gratitude. The kind word someone spoke, a moment of beauty you witnessed, the comfort of your bed, the warmth of the sun on your face. By practicing the feeling of gratitude, you are practicing the feeling of fulfillment. And when you can find fulfillment in your present moment, you release the desperate need for the future to be different. In that release, the future is suddenly free to become what you have imagined. I remember a man who was desperately trying to manifest healing in his body. He was sick, in pain, and growing more anxious by the day. Every visualization of health was tainted with the desperate energy of I must get well or I will suffer forever. I taught him to find one thing each day for which he was genuinely grateful. Perhaps a moment when the pain lessened, or the kindness of a nurse, or the beauty of clouds outside his window. This practice gradually shifted him from the frequency of desperate lack to the frequency of grateful fulfillment. As he learned to feel fulfillment in his present moments, the desperate grasping for future health dissolved. And in that dissolution, his body began to heal in ways that surprised even his doctors. He had allowed healing by releasing the force of desperation. The fourth shift is building a mental sanctuary. This is a short, simple, imaginal scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled. Not the moment of receiving it, but a moment after. A moment that would only exist if your desire were already a fact. If you desire marriage, your scene could be as simple as feeling the weight of a wedding ring on your finger while washing your hands. If you desire career success, it could be a brief congratulatory conversation with a friend who says, I always knew you would do it. This scene is your anchor. When the storms of doubt arise in your day, you do not fight the doubt. Fighting doubt only gives it more power. Instead, you simply retreat to your mental sanctuary for a few seconds, feel it real, and return to your day with faith restored. This is not forcing. This is gently reminding yourself of the truth you have chosen to live from. Now, a word of caution to keep you from undoing all your good work. First, you must resist the impulse to anxiously look for your desire in your outer world. Every time you check for proof with anxiety in your heart, you are performing a powerful imaginal act of doubt. You are impressing upon your subconscious the feeling that it is not here yet. And your subconscious, unfailingly loyal, accepts that feeling as your new command and creates more experiences of not here yet. Think of a baker who has placed a cake in the oven. He has done his part. He mixed the ingredients, poured the batter, set the temperature. Now he must trust the process. He does not open the oven door every 2 minutes to see if it has risen. To do so would let out the heat and ruin the cake. Your sustained assumption, your faith, is the heat that bakes your desire into reality. Once you have placed it in the oven of your imagination, you must leave the door closed. You must trust the process. I knew a woman who was manifesting a new home. She did her imaginal act beautifully. She felt herself in the home, walking through the rooms, feeling the satisfaction of ownership. But every day she would anxiously check real estate listings, desperately searching for signs that a home was coming. Each time she searched with anxiety, she was impressing her subconscious with lack rather than fulfillment. I told her, "You are baking a cake and opening the oven door every 5 minutes. You must trust that the process is working. Check listings if you feel inspired to do so, from a state of calm curiosity, but never from desperate anxiety." She learned to do her imaginal act at night, feel the satisfaction, and then go about her day without anxiously checking. Within a month, the perfect home appeared through an unexpected connection, not through her anxious searching. Second, do not discuss your desire with those who are not in sympathy with your aim. Your imaginal act is a tender new creation, a new state of consciousness. Exposing it to the cold winds of doubt and ridicule can chill your conviction, causing you to doubt your own creation. Keep your secret. Let it grow strong within you until it is ready to be born as a fact in your world. So what does this state of true allowing, of genuine detachment, actually feel like? Let me be clear. It is not apathy. It is not indifference. It is not giving up on your desire. In fact, it is the highest and most potent form of faith. It is the calm assurance of the farmer who has planted a seed in good soil. He does not fret. He does not dig it up each day to check if it is growing. He simply knows he has done his part, and the law of growth will do the rest. It is the feeling of having ordered a fine meal at a wonderful restaurant. You do not follow the waiter into the kitchen to make sure the chef is cooking. You simply relax at your table, enjoying the ambience, knowing that in due time your order will be served. It is the same assurance with which you know the sun will rise tomorrow. You do not wake each night in fear, wondering if the dawn will come. You simply know it will, and so you rest. In like manner, you must rest in the certainty of your desire fulfilled. Remember what I have taught you. Creation is finished. Everything that could ever exist already exists in the infinite realm of imagination. What you seek is not something you must create or force into being. It already is. You need only to accept it, to claim it, to assume it as yours. This state is a quiet inner peace, a release of all tension. You can think of your desire and you feel a gentle warmth, a quiet smile, not the anxious, desperate yearning of still wanting it, but the pleasant, familiar feeling of knowing it is already yours. Let me tell you about a final example that perfectly illustrates this state. A young artist came to me who had been desperately trying to manifest recognition for his work. He forced himself to paint every day. He anxiously submitted to every gallery. He checked his email constantly for responses. He was exhausted. His work was suffering, and success seemed further away than ever. I said to him, "You are chasing recognition like a hunter chasing a deer through the forest. The more violently you pursue, the faster it flees. You must become like a fragrant flower standing still in the garden, effortlessly drawing what you desire to you." I taught him to stop forcing his art, and instead to simply be an artist who was already recognized and valued, to create from that state of confidence rather than desperation, to submit his work when inspired, not when anxious, to rest in the assumption that recognition was already his in consciousness, whether or not it had appeared in form. The shift was remarkable. His art became more authentic, more powerful, because it was no longer tainted with the desperate energy of needing validation. Within 6 months, a major gallery discovered his work and offered him a solo exhibition. But by that time, he no longer desperately needed the recognition. He had already claimed it in consciousness, and the external recognition was simply the shadow following the substance. He had moved from being the frantic hunter to becoming the fragrant flower. He had stopped forcing and started allowing. This is the promise of allowing. This is the secret of letting it come. When you reach this state, you have moved from desperate grasping to magnetic attraction. You do not chase, you simply attract. You do not force, you simply allow. You do not struggle. You simply rest in the knowledge that it is done. Your desire is not somewhere in the future, waiting for you to work hard enough to deserve it. It exists right now in the dimension of imagination, and you claim it by assuming the feeling of already having it. Not by forcing that feeling, but by gently, naturally, persistently dwelling in it until it becomes as natural as breathing. So tonight, I want you to examine your relationship with your desires. Are you forcing? Are you struggling? Are you desperately trying to make something happen through sheer effort and strain? If so, I invite you to release that grip. Let go of the cork and watch it rise to the surface effortlessly. Plant your seed and trust the law of growth. Order your meal and relax while it is prepared. Assume your desire is already yours in consciousness, and rest in that assumption with the quiet confidence of someone who knows the sun will rise tomorrow. Stop forcing it. Let it come. For in the letting go, you will find that what you have been chasing has been waiting all along for you to simply stop running and allow it to catch up to you. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and you are the operant power in your world. I'll see you in the next video. My friends, I want to tell you something tonight that may disturb you at first, but will set you free if you truly understand it. Ignore the facts. Yes, you heard me correctly. Ignore the facts. Dismiss them. Pay them no attention whatsoever. Now, before you think I've lost my mind, let me explain what I mean by this seemingly absurd statement. The facts are screaming at you right now, aren't they? Your bank account shows a certain number or lack of numbers. Your body appears in a particular condition. Your relationships exist in a specific state. The world presents itself to you with what seems like undeniable evidence. And every authority figure you've ever known, your parents, your teachers, society itself has trained you to respect facts, to bow down to facts, to accept facts as the ultimate reality. But I'm here to tell you tonight, facts are the greatest liars you will ever meet. You see, facts are nothing more than the hardened assumptions of your past. They are yesterday's thoughts made visible. They are the fruit of seeds you planted in consciousness, weeks, months, or even years ago. Seeds you may not even remember planting. When you look at a fact, you are not looking at reality. You are looking at a shadow. You are looking at the end result of an old state of consciousness that you once occupied. And here is what you must understand. A fact has no power except the power you give it by continuing to assume it must remain a fact. What you see before you at this very moment is nothing more than the echo of past thoughts, old beliefs, and yesterday's assumptions. It is a photograph of a moment long gone, a snapshot of a mind you no longer have to live with. The greatest error you can make is to look at this picture and call it truth. The truth is not what is before your eyes. The truth is what you hold in the quiet of your imagination. The truth is the state you dare to inhabit, the reality you choose to claim as your own. The world will show you the reflection of your inner state, but only after a delay. So if you want tomorrow to look different, you must stop letting today dictate how you feel. Ignore the facts. They will try to speak loudly. They will wave their hands and demand your attention. They will tell you what's real, what's possible, and what's likely. The doctor will show you test results. The banker will show you numbers. People will show you their doubt. But facts are poor prophets. They only know the past. You are the creator of the future. So just keep assuming, Assume that the desire is already fulfilled. Walk through your days as the one who has already received it. When you wake up in the morning, feel the satisfaction of it. When you go to bed at night, rest in the comfort of it. Let your assumption be more real to you than any circumstance. At first, your senses will argue. They will show you a bank account you don't like, a relationship you don't yet have, a body you wish were different, a situation that appears unchangeable. Smile at these things, for they are only the fading remnants of a life you have outgrown. Do not fight them. Do not fear them. Just ignore them. Then keep living in the end. Reality is just a reflection. What stands before you in this moment is not a measure of your worth, your potential, or your destiny. It is simply a reflection of what you once believed, once felt, once assumed about yourself and the world. Every circumstance you see right now is the result of old mental patterns, thoughts that have already done their work. It is the past wearing the costume of the present, and just like the shadow on the ground lags behind the person who casts it, your current reality lags behind your inner state. You must understand, present conditions are not telling you who you are, but who you were. They are echoes, delayed responses, fragments of an old script you've already outgrown. And if you allow yourself to judge your future based on this shadow, you will chain yourself to a cycle that repeats endlessly. This is why it is so vital to stop reacting to what is, and start creating from what will be. Your outer world is always one step behind your inner world. By the time you can see, hear, or touch a thing, it has already been set in motion by an earlier state of mind. This means that whatever displeases you right now is not your enemy. It is simply outdated. Like an old photograph, it no longer represents your living truth. The danger comes when you forget this and begin to emotionally engage with what you dislike. The moment you give it your attention, your fear, or your frustration, you begin planting the seeds to experience more of it. The wise creator does not take present circumstances as an instruction for how to feel. They know that feelings are the blueprint of tomorrow. So they refuse to let the current picture dictate their mood. Instead, they withdraw their focus from the unwanted and place it firmly on the unseen vision they have chosen. They treat the present like a letter that was mailed weeks ago. It has already been written. They know that if they want a different letter tomorrow, they must write something new today. When you understand this, life changes. You no longer panic when something unwanted appears, because you know it is already on its way out. You no longer rush to fix the outer, because you know the inner has already taken care of it. You stop begging circumstances to change, and instead tend to the only thing that truly matters, your state of being. This is the power of detachment from the old. You don't fight it, you don't hate it, you simply recognize that it's not current, not alive, not defining you anymore. You thank it for its message. It is here to show you where you once stood. And then you move on. You live mentally from the place you wish to be, and you hold to it with quiet persistence. In time, the old fades away entirely, and the world catches up to the self you have already become. Then you'll see with your own eyes. Reality was never telling you the truth. It was only telling you the past. Everything begins in the unseen. Before any event unfolds, before any change is witnessed, before any dream becomes tangible, it exists in the quiet realm of thought and belief. The invisible always comes first. Your mind is the soil, and every assumption you hold is a seed planted deep within it. Whether you plant seeds of fear or seeds of faith, they will take root. Whether you nurture visions of lack or visions of abundance, they will grow. The world you walk through is nothing more than the harvest of what you have been growing inside. The mistake most people make is to judge life only by what they can see. They forget that what is visible is already the end of a process, not the beginning. The tree is not born when you notice it. It began long ago as a seed beneath the surface. Likewise, the success, the love, the health, the wealth you desire will not appear out of nowhere. It is born the moment you assume it is already yours, the moment you feel the reality of it in your inner world. This is why you must be intentional with the seeds you plant. Every thought charged with emotion, every assumption you accept as truth is dropped into the fertile soil of your subconscious. And once it's planted, it grows. Whether you notice it or not, if you spend your days replaying fears, expecting disappointment, or believing in limitations, you are watering weeds. These weeds do not ask your permission to grow. They thrive in the attention you give them. But you have the choice to plant something different. You can choose to assume that your desire is already a reality. You can choose to hold that assumption as if it were sacred, tending to it daily with your thoughts and feelings. When doubt appears, you refuse to feed it. When appearances contradict your vision, you remind yourself that they are simply the remnants of old seeds, and you let them pass without attention. It is not your job to dig up the seed every day to see if it's growing. In fact, doing so only delays the process. Your task is to water it with belief, to keep the soil warm with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and to protect it from the weeds of fear and frustration. The harvest will come in its own time. You cannot rush the unfolding any more than you can force a flower to bloom before it is ready. When you truly grasp this, you stop living as a victim of circumstances. You stop being fooled by the outer world because you know the invisible comes first. The moment you claim it within, the seed is planted. The harvest is inevitable. So stop tending to weeds. Stop feeding the unwanted with your attention. Instead, water your seed with faith. Nurture it with gratitude. And trust that what you cannot yet see is already alive beneath the surface, growing into the life you have chosen. The moment you decide what you want, your task is not to wait for proof. It is to live from the end, as if the desire were already fulfilled. The greatest mistake is to stand still, scanning the world for signs, measuring progress by outer changes. This keeps you in a state of waiting, and waiting only creates more waiting. Instead, you must step into the role now, mentally and emotionally embodying the person who already has the thing you desire. You cannot think of yourself as poor and expect to live in wealth. You cannot see yourself as unloved and expect to be cherished. You cannot carry the feeling of someday and expect the gift to arrive today. What you hold in your mind and heart becomes your reality. Not what you wish for in the distance, but what you claim in the present. When you assume it's done, you stop approaching your desire as a request and start approaching it as a fact. This is not about pretending or forcing yourself to believe through sheer willpower. It is about entering into a state of being where you naturally feel the truth of your assumption. You do this by asking yourself, if I already had it, how would I think? How would I walk? How would I speak to others? How would I treat myself? Then you live according to those answers, even if your senses try to convince you otherwise. At first this may feel strange, because your outer reality will still carry the residue of the old state. But do not be discouraged. Outer conditions are slow to catch up. They are the shadow, not the substance. The substance is the inner state you hold unwaveringly. Your mind is the director. The world is the stage. The moment you accept the role inwardly, the scene begins to change outwardly. Do not wait for circumstances to give you permission to feel successful, happy, loved, or abundant. Decide to feel it now. When you live from that inner certainty, the world will mirror it back to you in ways you could never predict. Opportunities will arise. People will respond differently. And events will arrange themselves in your favor. Not because you forced them, but because you align with the version of you who already lives in that reality. The key is persistence. You cannot step into the role for an hour and then return to doubt for the rest of the day. Hold the state as naturally as you hold your own name. Carry it in your posture, your words, and your inner dialogue. If you fall into old patterns, gently return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you assume as if it's done, you collapse the gap between desire and experience. You are no longer someone trying to get there. You are someone who is already there in consciousness. And the world has no choice but to follow. The evidence will appear, but only after you've stopped looking for it and started living from it. Silence the senses. There will always be voices, some from others, some from within, that try to tell you what is possible and what is not. They will measure your potential by your current situation, by your past failures, or by their own limited vision. If you allow these voices to dictate your thinking, you'll find yourself trapped in the same reality they believe in. The truth is, those outer opinions and visible circumstances are powerless unless you give them power through your attention and acceptance. The outer voice often comes disguised as common sense, practical advice, or just being realistic. But what it is really doing is binding you to the known and the visible, keeping you from stepping into the unseen, where your desire is already alive. If you want to create something new, you must learn to silence these outer voices. You do not silence them by arguing or convincing others to agree with you. You silence them by withdrawing your mental and emotional energy from their words. Your senses too will try to persuade you. They will present you with facts, numbers and images that seem immovable. They will whisper, "Look, nothing has changed. This is your reality." But your senses are reporters of the past, not prophets of the future. They can only confirm what has already been created through your previous states of mind. If what you see and hear contradicts your desire, remind yourself that it is only the fading echo of old beliefs. This is why inner discipline is so important. You must become the guardian of your own mind. When doubt tries to speak, you gently turn your attention back to the vision you've chosen. When fear presents its case, you refuse to sit in its courtroom. When people insist that you are foolish for believing in what they cannot see, you silently bless them and return to your inner knowing. The power to manifest is not found in convincing the world to support your dream. It is found in convincing yourself so completely that the world has no choice but to rearrange itself accordingly. This is why you must not let the noise of others or the evidence of your senses shake your conviction. Every moment you allow yourself to be swayed by the outer world, you water the seeds of doubt. But every moment you hold fast to your chosen assumption, you strengthen the roots of your new reality. There will be times when the silence feels lonely, when it seems easier to agree with the loudest voice or to surrender to the facts. But remember, every great change begins in solitude, in the quiet place where belief is nurtured without interference. So guard that place. Protect it. Keep it free from the weeds of doubt and fear. Ignore the doubters. Ignore the circumstances. Ignore even the reports of your own senses if they disagree with your desire. The only voice that matters is the one within you that says, "It is done." Persist through contradiction. Persistence is the quiet, unwavering decision to hold to your chosen assumption, regardless of what the world shows you. It is the understanding that the outer world is slow to reflect inner change, and that during this delay the old reality may still appear strong, solid, and unshakable. Many people abandon their vision in this waiting period, thinking nothing is happening, when in truth everything is already in motion beneath the surface. The old reality is like a shadow. It lingers for a while even after the light has shifted. Just because you cannot yet see the new conditions does not mean they are not on their way. In fact, the very moment you have assumed your desire as true, the process of creation begins. But if you look for constant proof, you pull yourself out of the state that makes fulfillment inevitable. Proof is the harvest. Assumption is the seed. The seed does not need you to keep digging it up. It needs you to trust. It will grow. Persistence means living in your chosen reality even when the evidence screams otherwise. It means refusing to let the temporary appearance of the old state dictate how you feel or what you believe. This is not stubbornness for its own sake. It is loyalty to the vision you have chosen. When the outer contradicts you, you do not argue with it. You simply ignore it and return to the inner world where the desire is already fulfilled. There will be times when nothing seems to be moving. You may feel like you are standing still while your vision remains far away. In those moments, remember that movement is happening in ways you cannot yet perceive. The world of form is rearranging itself. People and events are aligning, and unseen doors are preparing to open. Your only job is to keep the inner state alive, to remain the person who already has what they desire, even in the absence of proof. Persistence is also a test of faith, not faith in luck or chance, but faith in the law, that the inner creates the outer. If you know this to be true, there is no reason to give in to impatience or doubt. Time becomes irrelevant, because the outcome is certain. The only variable is whether you will hold your assumption long enough for it to solidify into fact. When you persist, you become unshakable. You no longer chase proof, because you understand it must appear. You stop measuring your progress by what is visible, and start measuring it by your ability to remain in the state you have chosen. And then one day the world bends to your assumption so naturally that it feels as if it could never have been any other way. The old reality fades like a dream, and the new one stands before you, not because you demanded proof, but because you persisted until proof had no choice but to arrive. In the end, the power to transform your life lies not in reacting to what you see, but in mastering what you assume. Reality as it stands today is nothing more than the echo of past beliefs, a delayed reflection of states you no longer need to accept. The invisible comes first. Every change begins in the unseen realm of thought and feeling. By assuming as if your desire is already done, silencing the outer voices, living in the end daily, and persisting without the need for proof, you position yourself as the true creator of your experience. The world may resist at first. The illusion of the old may seem stubborn. But if you hold your assumption with faith and persistence, reality will bend. It always does. Your role is not to chase, beg, or plead. It is to choose, believe, and remain. The inner must be honored before the outer can reflect it. And the moment you live from your chosen state, the rest becomes inevitable. Stay loyal to your vision. Ignore what contradicts it, and trust that what you have claimed within is already yours. The world will catch up, so ignore the facts. Keep assuming, and watch as your assumption hardens into the most beautiful fact you've ever witnessed. Thank you and good evening. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video.